The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting soft light through the white curtains onto the dining table. Lisa Harrison stirred the pancake batter with practiced hands while listening to the light footsteps coming down the stairs. Though she led a busy life as a nurse, she dedicated this morning time completely to her family. "Good morning, Mom. What's in my lunch today?" 8-year-old Emma bounded down the stairs and wrapped her arms around Lisa's waist. Emma's eyes, bright with anticipation, sparkled as her chestnut hair was tied in twin ponytails. Lisa turned around and gently stroked Emma's head. "Today it's your favorite ham sandwich. And I also packed some of those cookies we made together yesterday." "Yay!" Emma clapped her hands in delight. "I'm going to share some with my friend Sophia today." David appeared at the kitchen entrance. Her architect husband was still smoothing down his slightly disheveled hair with his hand while watching the two of them with an affectionate smile. "Good morning, beautiful ladies," David said, kissing Lisa's cheek and lifting Emma up. "You're full of energy today, young lady. Daddy, let's go to that new movie theater next Saturday. They're showing an animated film." Emma said excitedly. "Of course. We'll all go together as a family," David said, settling Emma in her chair before turning to Lisa. "Lisa, I'm truly grateful to have you here. You bring such warmth and love to this home, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart." Lisa's cheeks flushed slightly pink. Even after 3 years of marriage, she still wasn't used to her husband's straightforward expressions of love. 3 years ago, when Lisa first came to this house, Emma was only 5 years old. David had just divorced, and there was a very shy little girl. The first few months were difficult. Emma called her the person who's not mommy and avoided her, often crying at night calling for her real mother. But Lisa didn't give up. She made lunch every morning, read bedtime stories every night, and when Emma caught a cold, she stayed by her side all night caring for her. The change came 6 months after the marriage. On a day when Emma had a fever and stayed home from school, Lisa left work early to come home. As she was placing a cool towel on Emma's forehead as she lay restlessly in bed, Emma whispered softly, "Mommy." In that moment, tears overflowed from Lisa's eyes. Now they got along so well that neighbors said they looked like a real mother and daughter. They attended school sports days and recitals together as a family of 3, often envied by other families. The mothers of Emma's classmates would say, "Emma's mother seems so kind and lovely," and even the homeroom teacher praised them, saying, "You can really tell that Emma is being raised with so much love." After finishing breakfast, Emma shouldered her backpack and headed cheerfully toward the front door, calling out, "I'm off." Lisa hurried to hand her the lunchbox, and David gave Emma a kiss on the cheek. It was their usual morning scene. However, there was something that had been bothering her lately. Emma had been coming home from school later than usual. Previously, she would always be home by 3:30 in the afternoon, but for the past 2 weeks or so, it had often been after 5 o'clock. When Lisa asked, "What were you doing today?" Emma would answer, "Playing with friends," but her expression seemed somehow vague, and she felt like Emma's bright, sparkling smile had become less frequent. During dinner time, too, while she used to talk happily about what happened at school, recently she often ate in silence. "Emma, you seem to be lacking energy lately. Did something happen at school?" Lisa asked gently one evening. "Nothing really happened," Emma answered, keeping her eyes on her plate. "I'm just a little tired." Lisa became worried and consulted with her husband. "Maybe she's entering puberty early. She's still only 8 years old." "She's still only 8, so it might just be temporary," David answered gently, though there was a shadow of concern in his expression too. "I've been busy with work and haven't been able to spend much time with Emma lately, so maybe that's why." However, Lisa's maternal instincts told her something different. She couldn't shake the feeling that Emma's change was something more than just a natural part of growing up. At night, as she gazed at Emma's sleeping face, Lisa let out a small sigh. Emma's delayed homecoming became more serious with each passing day. Previously, she could always hear the front door open at 3:30 in the afternoon, but now it wasn't unusual for Emma not to come home until after 5 o'clock. Lisa found herself checking the clock even during her shifts at the hospital, and her colleagues increasingly asked her, "Do you have something on your mind lately?" When she heard the sound of Emma taking off her shoes at the front door and her "I'm home," Lisa would breathe a sigh of relief. However, she no longer heard the bouncy voice saying, "Mom, today like before. Welcome home, Emma." "You're late today," Lisa said, poking her head out from the kitchen with a smile. "Yes," Emma answered briefly, then left her backpack on the floor and headed for the stairs. "What about homework? Shall we do it together?" "I'll do it later," Emma replied without turning around. Previously, she would always sit next to Lisa to solve math problems together or have her help with kanji practice, but now she shut herself away in her room alone. Dinner time had changed too. Before, Emma would talk happily about what happened at school, and the family's laughter would echo through the dining room. "I was able to do a pull-up in gym class today. The curry rice for lunch was so delicious." Such innocent conversations had been this home's greatest treasure. But now, Emma continued eating silently, and even when Lisa or David spoke to her, she only gave short responses like, "Yes," or "I see." When dinner was over, she would say, "Thank you for the meal," and quickly return to her room. Emma seems to be lacking energy lately. Has something happened at school? Lisa became concerned and called Emma's homeroom teacher, Mrs. Miller. "Emma's concentration in class hasn't been what it used to be lately. She's often spacing out, and sometimes she's slow to respond when I call her name." Lisa's concerns were right on target. "Is there any problematic behavior? Like trouble with friends?" "No, there's no particular problematic behavior. She plays normally with her friends, and there's no sign of bullying. Rather, has something happened at home? Like changes in the environment or stressful events?" Being asked in return, Lisa was puzzled. There was nothing particularly different at home. Her relationship with David was good, and they hadn't moved or changed schools. If anything, Lisa herself had been busy lately and might have spent a little less time with Emma, but could that be the cause? "I understand. I'll keep watching her a bit longer. Please contact me immediately if anything happens." After hanging up, Lisa sighed deeply. Emma's change was obvious both at school and at home. But she couldn't understand the cause. That night, she consulted with David. "Maybe it's because I've been busy with work and haven't been able to spend time with Emma lately," David said, blaming himself. "I've often had to go out on weekends to check on construction sites, so Emma might be feeling lonely." "It's not your fault," Lisa said, taking David's hand. "I've also had more training at the hospital and have been coming home late more often. Maybe we've both been too busy." But was that the only cause? Deep in Lisa's chest, anxiety continued to smolder that there might be something more serious. On the weekend, Lisa made an effort to spend time with Emma. They baked cookies together and took walks to the nearby park. However, Emma's reactions weren't as enthusiastic as before, and she seemed somewhat absent-minded. "Emma, do you have something on your mind? Can you tell Mommy about it?" Sitting on a park bench, Lisa asked gently. "Nothing really," Emma answered, swinging her legs. "I'm fine, Mommy." Hearing the word Mommy, Lisa's heart felt a little lighter. At least Emma wasn't rejecting her. However, her expression didn't have the carefree smile of before. The decisive incident occurred a week later during dinner. Lisa suggested cheerfully, "Emma, shall we go to the amusement park next weekend? I heard they built a new roller coaster. Let's spend a fun day together, all three of us." Emma stopped her chopsticks and stared at Lisa. In her eyes was a complex emotion she had never seen before. "Why are you nice to me?" Emma's voice was small but clear. "You're not my real mom, are you?" A heavy silence fell over the dining room. Lisa felt her hand holding the chopsticks tremble. David's face turned pale, and he too was at a loss for words. "Emma! Don't say such things," David scolded in a stern voice. "Lisa is your precious mother. But she's not my real mom." Tears overflowed from Emma's eyes. "Everyone's a liar." With that cry, Emma stood up from her chair and ran crying to her room. The sound of the door slamming shut echoed throughout the house. Lisa stared at her hands placed on the table. The trembling wouldn't stop. It felt as if 3 years of daily accumulated love and effort had crumbled in an instant. "Lisa, Emma doesn't really think that." "Something must have happened," David said in a panic, trying to make excuses. However, Lisa understood. Emma's words had probably come from the bottom of her heart. No matter how much love she poured out, no matter how much they lived as a family, the fact that they weren't blood-related wouldn't change. That night, Lisa sat alone in the kitchen and cried. The joy she felt 3 years ago when Emma first called her Mommy, the countless happy times they had spent together, everything felt like it had happened a long time ago. "Did I do something wrong?" Lisa asked David through her tears. "That's not it at all. You're the best mother Emma could have." David was also confused. "We've lived like a real family for 3 years, so why suddenly?" However, neither of them could find the answer. Lisa had completely lost her confidence as a stepmother and had no idea how to repair her relationship with Emma. Emma's words, "You're not my real mom," wouldn't leave her head, and Lisa couldn't sleep all night. The next morning, her face in the mirror was exhausted, with deep circles under her eyes. David also had a tired expression as he helped prepare breakfast. "Good morning," Emma said as she came down the stairs, her voice smaller than usual, seeming to be concerned about last night's events. "Good morning, Emma," Lisa answered, trying to sound cheerful, but her voice trembled slightly. Breakfast time was wrapped in awkward silence. Emma was just poking at her pancakes with her head down, and neither Lisa nor David knew what to talk about. "Emma, about last night," David began to speak when Emma stood up. "I'm going to school," Emma said, shouldering her backpack. "I'm off." "Have a good day." Lisa saw her off to the front door, but Emma walked away without looking back. Watching that small back, Lisa steeled her resolve. "Today I'll finish work early and find out where Emma is and what she's doing." Even during work at the hospital, Lisa's head was full of thoughts about Emma. She became absent-minded even during conversations with patients, and her nursing colleagues asked, "Are you okay?" At 2 p.m., Lisa asked the head nurse to let her leave early. The reason, family emergency, was, in a way, true. She drove near the school and parked on a street a little away from where other parents came to pick up their children. At 3:15 p.m., the school gate opened and children came out one after another. Lisa's heart was beating wildly. While surprised at herself for acting like a detective, her desire to know Emma's truth was stronger. While other children headed home, Emma came out of the school gate alone. However, Emma walked in the opposite direction from the road she usually took. Lisa carefully started the car and followed Emma while keeping her distance. "What's in this direction?" Lisa murmured. Emma was walking with sure steps. She didn't seem lost and clearly appeared to know her destination. Emma went through the shopping district on Main Street and entered a residential area. Lisa decided to stop the car and follow on foot. She walked carefully, maintaining sufficient distance so Emma wouldn't notice her. Maybe a friend lives around here, Lisa thought, looking around at the surrounding houses. It was a typical suburban residential area with neatly maintained lawns and white fences. Emma continued walking through it without getting lost. After walking for about 15 minutes, Emma headed toward the town's central park. It was a beautiful park with spacious lawn areas, playground equipment, and a pond. Since it was a weekday afternoon, there weren't many people around. Emma sat on a bench in the center of the park and seemed to be waiting for something. Lisa hid behind a large oak tree at the edge of the park and observed Emma's behavior. Her heartbeat quickened, and her palms were sweating. "What are you waiting for, Emma?" Lisa murmured, pressing her back against the tree trunk. After about 10 minutes, a woman appeared from the entrance on the opposite side of the park. The woman, who appeared to be in her late 30s, had shoulder-length blonde hair blowing in the wind and wore a black coat. She was tall and seemed attractive at first glance, but there was something unstable about her expression. When Emma spotted the woman, her expression completely changed. She took on a tense look that Lisa had never seen before, and her body seemed to stiffen. Lisa's heart almost stopped. Who is that woman? Why does Emma have such an expression? The woman slowly approached Emma and sat next to her on the bench. Although she couldn't hear the conversation due to the distance, she could see the woman speaking to Emma. Emma was nodding slightly, but her movements were awkward and she clearly seemed frightened. The woman placed her hand on Emma's shoulder. At that moment, Lisa didn't miss seeing Emma's body jerk with a shudder. The woman continued talking as if whispering something in her ear. Emma nodded occasionally, but her expression seemed filled with pain. What on earth are they talking about? For Emma to be so frightened, Lisa clenched her fists tightly behind the tree. She was driven by an impulse to rush out and protect Emma, but she told herself she needed to understand the situation first. The conversation between the woman and Emma lasted about 30 minutes. During that time, the woman took Emma's hand and stroked her cheek, but Emma seemed tense throughout. Occasionally, Emma would shake her head, seeming to oppose something. Finally, the woman stood up. She said something to Emma and patted Emma's head as she left. However, it wasn't an affectionate pat but gave the impression of being somewhat intimidating. After the woman left the park, Emma continued sitting alone on the bench. Lisa continued observing her daughter's behavior. Emma sat with her small body curled up, and she could see her shoulders shaking occasionally. Was she crying? Emma! Lisa's heart ached. Her beloved daughter was suffering alone, and all she could do was hide behind a tree and watch. After a while, Emma stood up and began walking slowly toward home. Her steps were heavy, and her shoulders were drooping. It was completely different from the sure way she had walked when she left school. Lisa returned home by a different route. She arrived before Emma and began preparing dinner as if nothing had happened. However, her hands were shaking, and she almost got the seasoning amounts wrong. Who was that woman? What did she do to Emma? Why was Emma so frightened? Countless questions raced through her mind. And one terrifying possibility came to Lisa's heart. After 5 p.m., Emma came home. Her "I'm home" was even smaller and weaker than usual. "Welcome home," Lisa answered, trying to sound normal, but inwardly her chest felt like it would burst from anger and worry about what she had seen today. Emma headed to her room as usual without making eye contact with Lisa. Watching her retreating figure, Lisa steeled her resolve. Tonight, she would tell David everything. And she had to find out the identity of that woman. During dinner, the family of 3 ate again in heavy silence. Emma hardly touched her food and was just poking at the side dishes with her chopsticks. Since last night's incident, the family atmosphere had completely changed. Lisa gazed at Emma's face. The frightened expression she had seen in the park wouldn't leave her mind. Her beloved daughter was being threatened by something. That fact alone was certain. And that something was undoubtedly the cause of Emma's recent changes. "Emma, where were you after school today?" Lisa asked carefully. Emma's chopstick stopped. Without raising her face, she answered in a small voice, "I was playing with friends at the park." It was a lie. Emma had been at the park, but she hadn't been playing with friends. She had been talking about something with that blonde woman. However, Lisa didn't pursue it. Now wasn't the time yet. When dinner was over, Emma returned to her room early as usual. When Lisa and David were alone together, Lisa told him everything she had seen today. David's face drained of color, and he sank deep into the back of his chair. His hands were trembling slightly. It couldn't be. Rebecca. Lisa heard that name for the first time. In their 3 years of marriage, David had rarely talked in detail about his ex-wife. She had only heard harmless explanations like, the divorce was amicable, and, we made the best choice for Emma. Who's Rebecca? Anxiety seeped into Lisa's voice. David sighed deeply and held his head in his hands. Emma's biological mother. I divorced her 3 years ago, but... He began speaking carefully, choosing his words. She would sometimes get emotional with Emma and raise her hand to her. Lisa's heart almost stopped. Violence? At first I thought it was discipline. But it gradually escalated. David's voice was shaking. When Emma was 5, a kindergarten teacher contacted us saying Emma has unnatural bruises on her arm. That's when I learned the truth. Lisa gasped. To think that adorable Emma had experienced such terrible things. So you divorced? Yes. I got custody for Emma's safety. But she wasn't satisfied. She screamed, I'm her mother. I have rights, and even caused a scene in court. David continued painfully, her visitation rights were supposed to be restricted, but I never imagined she was making illegal contact. In Lisa's mind, the events of the past few weeks began to connect. Emma's delayed homecoming, the change in her expression, and last night's words, you're not my real mom. Everything connected in a single line. Let's talk to Emma right away, Lisa stood up. We can't let her suffer alone. The two of them went to Emma's room. When they knocked on the door, they heard a small, come in. Emma was sitting on her bed with her knees drawn up. Her favorite teddy bear was placed by her pillow, but she wasn't hugging it as usual. The room light wasn't on, and Emma's small silhouette stood out in the dim light. Emma, we need to talk, Lisa sat on the edge of the bed. David also sat on the opposite side. Can you tell us about the woman you met at the park today? Emma's body shuddered. I don't know. I didn't meet anyone. Emma, you mustn't lie, David said gently. Wasn't that woman Rebecca? When Rebecca's name came up, Emma raised her face. Fear was floating in her eyes. Daddy said I shouldn't tell. Emma's voice was trembling. Who said you shouldn't tell? Lisa asked gently. Emma was silent for a long time, but finally began to tell the truth. That person said she's my real mommy, tears ran down her cheeks. She said Lisa is a fake mommy and is tricking Daddy. She said if I'm not a good girl, Daddy will go away. Lisa's chest tightened. To say such terrible things to an 8-year-old child. But that person is scary, Emma continued crying. Before too, she did painful things to me. She said, if you tell Lisa, something worse will happen. Emma. Lisa gently embraced Emma. You did nothing wrong. I'm sorry you had to go through such frightening experiences. When I said, you're not my real mom, that person told me to say it too, Emma cried against Lisa's chest. I really didn't want to say it. Lisa is a good mommy. But she said if I didn't say it, something scarier would happen. David joined in, and the three of them hugged together. Emma's small body was trembling, but she seemed a little relieved to have told the truth. It's okay now, Emma, Lisa said, stroking her daughter's hair. You're my precious daughter. Even if we're not connected by blood, our hearts are connected. That's what's most important. Really? Emma raised her tear-stained face. I love Lisa so much. I like her more than my real mommy. But that person. You don't need to worry anymore, David said firmly. Daddy will protect you. I absolutely won't let Rebecca come near you. However, the next evening, that promise would be tested in an unexpected way. While Lisa was preparing dinner, the front doorbell rang. David hadn't come home from work yet, and Emma was doing homework. When Lisa opened the door, the blonde woman she had seen at the park yesterday was standing there. You must be Lisa, the woman's voice was cold and full of hostility. I'm Rebecca. Emma's real mother. What do you want? Lisa tried to remain calm, but her heart was beating wildly. I'm here to take Emma back, Rebecca tried to step into the entrance. She's the child I gave birth to. I can't hand her over to you. You have no right, Lisa pressed against the door and stood in her way. Your visitation rights are supposed to be restricted. I'm her mother. Rebecca's voice rose. That man tricked me and took my daughter, but I can't stand it anymore. Emma is mine. Emma's crying could be heard from upstairs. She was trembling with fear. Can't you see Emma is frightened? Lisa desperately tried to persuade her. What you're doing isn't for the child's benefit. What have you been telling my daughter? Rebecca flew into a rage. You steal my daughter from me, and now you're trying to make me the bad guy. When Rebecca tried to force her way into the house, Lisa called 911 on her cell phone. I need police for trespassing and threats against a child. Police. Rebecca was agitated. I'm her mother. I have rights. 10 minutes later, a police car arrived. Rebecca was taken away screaming, I'm her mother. I have rights. Neighbors came out after hearing the commotion, but Lisa didn't care. Emma's safety was more important than anything. One of the police officers explained to Lisa. This was someone who already had a restraining order against her. This incident will likely result in even stricter punishment. When David rushed home in a panic, everything was over. Emma anxiously asked from Lisa's arms, won't she come anymore? It's okay, you're safe now, Lisa answered, and Emma showed a relieved expression for the first time. That night, the three of them sat on the living room sofa and talked together. Emma told them all about her frightening feelings, and Lisa and David renewed their vow to protect their daughter. All three of them realized that bonds formed by love and trust are much stronger than blood ties. 1 week after Rebecca's arrest, Lisa and David were consulting with a lawyer in his office about future responses. Rebecca Harrison will be prosecuted for violating the restraining order, trespassing, and threatening a child, lawyer Mr. Mitchell said, organizing his papers. The results of the psychiatric evaluation determined that she needs treatment, and she'll be required to receive treatment at a specialized facility even after serving her sentence. What about visitation rights? David asked. They'll be completely revoked. Any contact with Emma will be strictly prohibited. Also, this incident has revealed her behavioral patterns, so the police and child protective services will work together to monitor her going forward. Lisa breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, they could completely protect Emma. 3 months later, on a warm April morning with spring sunshine, laughter once again echoed through the Harrison family kitchen. Mommy, put strawberries in my lunch today. Emma said in a bright voice. Her completely carefree smile had returned. Of course. But you have to eat your vegetables properly too, Lisa said, packing strawberries into the lunchbox with a smile. Yes. I'm going to eat lots and build up my strength because we have dodgeball in gym class today. David appeared in the kitchen while adjusting his necktie. Our ladies are energetic today too. At school, Emma had also regained her former brightness. According to contact from Mrs. Miller, she was participating actively in classes and her relationships with friends were good. Counseling was also progressing well, and she no longer had nightmares. After dinner one evening, Emma said to Lisa, "Mommy, on the next Mother's Day, there's going to be a presentation at school. I'm going to talk about my real mommy." Lisa's chest grew warm. "What kind of things will you talk about?" "I'll talk about how I have a real mommy who's connected to me through the heart even though we're not connected by blood." Emma's eyes sparkled. "Mommy always protected me when I was scared." "A real mommy is someone who loves you, right?" Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes. "Emma. And then I'll talk about how family isn't decided by blood, but by feelings of caring about each other. My teacher said so too." David looked at the two of them and smiled. "Our ladies are the best." The next morning, before Emma left for school, she hugged Lisa and said, "Mommy, thank you for giving birth to me." "Emma, I didn't give birth to you," Lisa laughed gently. "That's not right. Mommy gave birth to my heart. You wrapped my frightened heart with love and gave birth to it anew." Lisa was completely speechless at Emma's words. She was moved by the depth of pure love that her 8-year-old daughter possessed. That weekend, the three of them went out to the nearby park. It was the same park where Emma had previously met with Rebecca, but now it had become a place for happy family memories. "Let's play tag," Emma suggested, and David said, "Daddy's going to be it," and started chasing them. Emma and Lisa ran away hand in hand, laughing out loud. The family's bright laughter echoed through the park, and passers-by looked on with warm smiles. While resting on a bench, Emma took Lisa's hand and said, "Mommy, I'm really glad we're a family." "Me too, Emma. Having you here makes me truly happy." David looked at the two of them and said, "You two have taught me that there are things more important than blood ties. Bonds formed by love and trust can never be broken, no matter what happens." At dusk, the shadows of the three heading home stretched long in the setting sun. Emma was in the middle, firmly holding Lisa's and David's hands. Family isn't determined by blood. It's about people who love, protect, and trust each other. The three members of the Harrison family understood this truth from their hearts. And they would continue to treasure this unbreakable bond as they built new days together, one by one.